Hey everyone, I'm Julia Barrett with Conservative Ladies of Washington, and I'm back again with another bill of the day. Today we're going to be talking about House Bill 1541, and this is a bill that was a carryover from last session, and it wasn't really on our radar. We didn't testify on it last session. It is a bad bill, but we didn't testify on it last session. We may have put out a couple of calls to action for people to sign in against it. But it passed through the House last session, and then it went over to the Senate. It was stalled in the Senate. That means it comes back over to the House this session. Well, it got a floor vote yesterday. I caught it on the order of bills to be heard yesterday or to be voted on yesterday, and that piqued my attention. I started looking into it and refreshing my memory on what this bill is about. So House Bill 1541 is called the Nothing About Us Without Us Act. And what this does is it requires any task force, committee, work group that's going to have any impact on policy in Washington state to have representation with people with direct lived experience on the group, on the committee. And so I think, what that would mean is, let's say it's a homeless policy. You would need someone who had been homeless or who is homeless to serve on this work group or task force to be able to give input from someone with direct lived experience. This is a DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion bill. So it's not based on merit or qualification. It is just somebody who has had direct lived experience with something. This isn't the way we make policy. This isn't constitutional. We don't just get to, we have elected leaders for a purpose because the people have elected them to represent them and to make policy that represents them. So singling out, giving special privileges for special groups of people is against the state constitution. It's against the federal constitution. We just don't do that. And so this would eliminate maybe some people who had the qualifications to serve on a work group, task force, or committee, but they would be overlooked in preference to this person that has direct lived experience. Now, not only do they have direct lived experience, but they're going to be compensated for their time on this work group or committee. They would get a per diem, and they would also get compensation for travel expenses and childcare or adult care expenses. There is a fiscal note for this bill, which is 290 pages long. Because it impacts every aspect or work group or committee within Washington state government, all of the departments, they have to identify how much funding from that particular department or committee is going to be allocated to this particular piece of legislation. So 290 pages long. I'm going to link that down in the description below. So if you are the kind of person who likes to geek out on numbers, you can have your way with that. I'm going to put in some of the highlighted portions that I have found for you that you might be interested in, kind of what I find are the big red flags of the bill. Now, this bill got a vote yesterday in the House, and it passed. It passed with bipartisan support. Only 14 Republicans voted no on this bill. And it just makes me wonder why. Why are you voting for such a piece of legislation that is unconstitutional, that is leftist ideology? Diversity, equity, and inclusion is completely racist. It is completely discriminating. There's no place for this kind of policy in our government. And when you have these special work groups that are giving, special privileges to specific groups of people, you're leaving other people out. You're causing discrimination. You're creating a divide. This is not healthy for a functioning and healthy society. So we are very opposed to this bill. Last year in session, I went through all of the testimonies from last year, and I noticed that the only person opposed to this legislation last year was our very own Eric Pratt, who spoke out against this bill and basically brought to light the unconstitutionality of such a piece of legislation. I'll link up his testimony below in the notes for you to go read that as well. But I call Eric Washington's unsung hero because he's the guy that, you'll find his name on a lot of these bills where nobody else shows up. There's Eric Pratt speaking up for the people of Washington state. So we're going to be tracking this bill as it goes forward. I'll link you to the bill itself so you can go read it for yourself and see what you think. We will be opposed to it as it crosses over to the Senate, and hopefully maybe we can get it stopped in the Senate once again this session. But I wish I had better news. I wish I had a bill that we could support, but there's not much of that going on this session, especially now that we are in up against session cutoff. Bills are being voted out of their chamber of origin and will now cross over to the other chamber. So we will again have an opportunity to have calls to action and give citizens an opportunity to speak out against these bills in the second half of the session. So hopefully we'll have some good news for you coming up in the weeks ahead. But in any event, we do appreciate the fact that you are taking action. You guys have been amazing. There's just a few more weeks, so please bear with us. Keep it up. Keep speaking out. Even if they don't do what you want, it's important that citizens get loud and let their representatives know exactly how they feel. If you are not already subscribed to our Substack, that is the best way to get the latest breaking updates and calls to action to stuff going on in the Washington State Legislature and around the country. I will have a link for you to subscribe down in the description box below. I would also ask that you consider becoming a paid subscriber. That's the same as being a member of our organization, and that is the best way that you can support the work that we're doing. If you don't want to do that, you can always kick us a donation. We appreciate all your contributions, and it helps us to be able to continue to do the work that we're doing and bringing truth and transparency to the citizens of Washington and America. So thanks for watching, and I will see you again next time.